Somewhere where we could balance each other. Right. Okay, good. Okay, so I had a bunch of questions prepared, but I think you preclude some of them. But before we get to your box of recycled Canadian inventions there, just tell me a little bit about the motivation behind Ingenious. It's Canada's 150th anniversary, of course. And why did you feel this story needed to be told now? Why did you and the Governor General feel this story needed to be told now?
Well, this story actually started 2 years ago as the Governor General was coming up on the end of his term before the extension. We started having a chat about what his legacy project would look like. And I had suggested to him that, humorously, I actually said to him we should create the Johnson Cup because we got the Grey Cup, the Stanley Cup. And of course, Rideau Hall didn't go for that. But what they did think...
What sport was the Johnson Cup going to...
The sport of innovation. Very competitive sport.
Oh, very good.
And so what
I want to watch that on TV.
What they, of course, went for was the Governor General's Awards for Innovation. So that's where we got started. And as we were going through this process, the committee, we started to recognize that we didn't just become innovative this past year. We started in 2016. And in fact, we should recognize all the Canadians that had gone before. And that kicked off a very interesting process because this story is a very Canadian story because we thought, well, maybe we could find 50 stories from Canada's past. And then we thought, well, we'll do 150 for the sesquicentennial if we can find it. And of course, as we started to dig into it, some of the most profound inventions were in fact from Indigenous, from First Nations. And that is not 150 years, that goes back 1,000 years. And so we were on quite a journey actually as we did this, but that was the real genesis for this. And in very Canadian fashion, by the way, Ed, when we put everyone together at Rideau Hall, from NRC to NSERC to SSHRC to various associations across the country that recognize innovation, very typical Canadian response. We asked for all the innovations, and of course, we don't keep track of them. We're so Canadian. We actually do not keep track. Individual organizations do, but there was no national database for innovation.
And you've created a database.
Yes, so as part of this launch, if you go to innovationculture.ca, and it's run by Science and Technology Museum, we actually now have the first ever national innovation database that any Canadian can go to and crowdsource and add Uncle Joe's invention and have it vetted. And in fact, that is now live, and students from all over Canada have already been on the site learning about their country.
Okay, I don't want to get in the way of the fun box, so why don't you just start, telling some stories here?
Well, my first and favorite one is the life jacket. We take this for granted today. And from a European perspective, we would think that, okay, well, this is as a result of the Titanic or something like that. It's not. This is Inuit. The Inuit figured out that you would die from hypothermia before you would drown. And they actually started making from the materials they had. And this was emulated, and this is where life jackets came from all over the world today.
Okay.
How do you top that one, Ed?
I read that one, and I was very surprised. And I got to say, it's nice, and it does keep you warm. Actually, a life jacket. It's good. Also keeps you safe. I see this carton in there, which I see at the grocery store sometimes. So,
egg carton. How practical is that? Can you imagine a world without an egg carton? That's the world we had.
Come on, when did people actually not have egg cartons?
90 years ago. Oh, hey, I could go on. Believe it or not, things we take for granted were invented by Canadians. The zipper. Prior to World War II, all clothing, all garments were hooks and buttons, and you would fasten. Think of, these, whether it's the paint roller,
I'm going to take your zipper
the zipper. And by the way, the story of the zipper is a great story. That's a Swedish immigrant. He came to this country, got it financed, and away he went. This is a tremendous story. But
what was it a Canadian?
Yeah.
Who first said that your zipper is down? We don't know that. Okay, but research did not go that far.
I try to stay away from those because the Wonder Bra was also invented by a Canadian, and I stay away from those.
I know that. I know the guy who made it famous.
But here's also a cautionary tale. Everybody knows what that is. That's a light bulb. Believe it or not, invented and patented by a Canadian, but of course, famously, the patent was purchased by Thomas Edison, who then perfected it and commercialized it. And we kept these stories in the book as well because Canadians need to learn. They need to learn. They could not get capital back in the late 1800s, but Thomas Edison had access to capital. So it matters. You know, the genius, the science matters, but all the other parts of the innovation system matter equally as well. So think of the light bulb.
So that's almost 200. I just want to stop and talk policy for half a second. We go back in there, but almost 200 years later, have we learned?
Well, things change. The technologies change.
I'm
the
thinking particularly about
ecosystems.
capital, about selling our innovation.
Yeah. You know, the simple answer is yes, we learn. We are highly critical of each other, as we should be. It makes Canada better every day because we get together in meetings like this and we're highly critical of each other. One of the reasons why we wrote this book is to also say, hey, we're also pretty good at this too. And we should always remember that because remember, our youth are listening to us. And it's very important that they hear this is wrong, and this is wrong. But hey, we also come up with stuff like this. Okay, so anybody know what this is? Canola. Okay, so 40 years ago, this was a big issue on the prairie because that crop, which was called rapeseed, was used as a lubricant for steam engines. And we all know what happened to steam engines. So for about a decade, we were singing the blues. We had nothing for this crop because it was not edible. So what happened? University of Manitoba, prairie farmers, the National Research Council, they got together, they crossbred strains, and they just created one of the best cooking oils in the world, and that's 26 billion every year in export. So in some ways, we are very good just-in-time inventors and innovators. Because the reality is we have an amazing country, and we compared to other countries from an immigration point of view of the previous panel, I can recall going to OECD with Red Wilson on his panel, and the chief economist, they're saying, you're Canada, what are you doing here? And Red, of course, would say, well, we're here on behalf of the government of Canada, establish better international competition. And the chief economist says, yeah, but you already have everything. You have more water, you have more diamonds, you have more gold, and we started laughing because he was right. We have so much. And so what happens is that we Canadians, we're very good at doing this, but we're just in time at it. We do it when we have to do it. But therein lies a dilemma for us from a policy point of view, because some of these things, whether it's artificial intelligence or some of the other things that we regard as a national mandate, they are somewhat come as you are parties. So you do have to build that infrastructure base.
Well, I guess, it's interesting, the canola story, and I know a little bit of about canola and rapeseed, having been sued my second month as a journalist by a rapeseed crushing plant in Saskatchewan, which is a story that we don't have to go into in great detail here, but apparently it's incumbent upon the journalist to prove in a court case that something they asserted is true, not on the party to establish it wasn't true, which was, quite a revelation to me in my second month of journalism. So we settled, embarrassingly. But in that story is a lot of different parties in our country coming together, and almost not with the commercialization challenge because it was just in time, as you say.
But this is such an important point for everyone to take away. That's why core science, excellence, a good society, those things matter. They matter a lot because that's what you bring to the party, and then you innovate from there. And these platform things, that's why we should be highly critical of each other and cause each other to keep up and change, because it's those platforms that matter. core science absolutely matters. Without global excellence in that, you cannot innovate and be competitive. But you have to have the capital. You've got to have that entrepreneurial incubator environment. So you've got to bring everything to the table.
Okay,
Can I do another one?
I think you should do combos in a way, and I think
right,
I should
let's do this
You're going to do
combo.
that together because I thought actually peanut butter goes better with Scrabble, but however you.
So everybody knows maple syrup, but maybe what you don't know is a Quebecois scientist invented peanut butter. You know, you may think, this is the Americans did it. No, Quebecois. And in fact, many types of chocolate, and in fact, I think I brought a couple. I got one for you, Ed.
Thank you.
Crispy Crunch, Coffee Crisp. Those are Canadian, and we put some around the tables for you if you need a sugar fix. The other thing that I wanted to mention, that got everybody going. There you go. The other thing I wanted to mention is that this is not just a book that we've done, and I also want to mention how you can get involved. So the first thing that we did while we were developing all the stories, and we did with the GG, we started with 50, got to 150, didn't want to stop there. As you all know, His Excellency's quite an energetic individual. We got to 300, and then McClellan and Stewart said, we can't make a book bigger than that. So there's 297 stories in there, and we have started to produce videos. And very much along the lines of Heritage Minutes, what a wonderful, as we started to look into this, Heritage Minutes were such a great thing for our youth, except they wouldn't stand for a minute anymore. All of our focus groups, 20 seconds. So you'll see if you go to the website innovationculture.ca, there's a whole bunch of those. But we also work with Nipissing University and the Faculty of Ed, and they created and devoted an entire year. There are 4 volumes like this, over 3,000 lesson plans in units, over 1,000 student teachers and mentor teachers put this together with 4 boards of education. So we now have a K-12 curriculum integration in Ontario, and we're now starting to broaden that across the rest of Canada. And then my last little plug for you, and by the way,
Well, when you say your last little plug, I just want there's one invention you didn't bring, and I'm looking in here, and I'm amazed. Now, you're an Air Force guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people know that. It's a big part of your history. And you didn't bring the Hawker Hurricane with you. But that is an important Canadian story,
well,
too.
It's my honor to be the honorary colonel of the Night Fighter Squadron at Cold Lake, which used to fly those Hurricanes.
Okay.
And
just tell people
our
who
heritage
developed
in
that.
aerospace. Our heritage in aerospace, believe it or not, and I hope everyone appreciates this, and I'm sort of giving the book away. I should leave it for people to read the book, but you will find that in aerospace, women had an enormous impact on all of this. And so I would encourage you to go read the story of the Hurricane, go read the story of mass production of aircraft. Women invented all that in Canada during World War II. But let me do one last thing. So all the proceeds from this go to Rideau Hall Foundation. So the Governor General and myself, we're not getting rich on this. This is for Rideau Hall Foundation, and it's for the promotion of innovation. And tonight at dinner, you'll all be receiving a copy of the book, as well as this pamphlet. And if you contact Scott Haldane, who's the president of Rideau Hall Foundation, and if you could call him out tonight, that would be nice. You'd embarrass him probably, but he'll be here tonight. We've made a challenge commit that if you buy books for your organization, every book you buy through Scott Haldane at Rideau Hall Foundation, we will match each book in a library or school in Canada, because we want it everywhere.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay.
That's great.